Definitely, it's not really common making 3 documentaries in a
Right.
row, and I was just using me as a character to deliver the story. So, I think in my film, even though it's my personal story, I think the whole film and the whole story is really universal. In the film, me as a character, I see myself as a medium to deliver the story to make it universal. And about school, of course, everyone sees me as a crazy person. Like, why would you do that? Like, it's the third time and you have to stop at some point. And then I didn't listen. I don't want to stop. I have to do it. And yeah, for me, it was really obvious.
가버리 집에 왔어. 서로 싸우느라 바빠. 전쟁이야.
He- Good day, Huiju Park, of the brilliant film Welcome Home Freckles, which is showing at DC Docs on June 14th at noon. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me and thank you for watching my
I am
film.
so excited that you're here. The film is a revelation. It is extremely personal, and I'm excited to talk with you about it. But before we do, how did you get started in this? It seems like you can't just go and tell that kind of personal story without having a base in filmmaking. I imagine you had to work yourself up to going home with a camera, right?
Definitely. I had this idea like for a while. Yeah, probably 2019 or 2020, but I couldn't because I was not ready. And then I stopped seeing my parents and all the relationship with my family. And then after 4 years, I decided, okay, we have to end this, whatever we're going on, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's how I decided to make Welcome on Freckles. Yeah.
And Hichu, did you go to film school? Did you have a past where you knew that you were going into filmmaking?
Yeah, I went to NFTS in the UK, National Film and Television School. Yeah, in the UK, yeah. And that was my grad film at the film school.
And why something so personal? I know a lot of people sometimes do comedies, they do something that's like maybe a little bit removed from their day-to-day life. But Welcome Home Freckles is the story of you returning to South Korea to see your family, and it's an extraordinarily personal film. You're showing some shots with your father, just like you can tell like the difficulties that there is in the relationship from your shooting, and that's what makes it so powerful. But what about that made you decide I need to do that film as like your graduate film, like to take on such a personal topic?
Welcome to Freckles is my third personal documentary, actually. So I've done
Okay.
some personal documentaries before, but I think the main reason in general is just self expression for me. It sounds a little bit selfish, but I tend to use my film as a therapy. So to move on, I have to make this film to survive from
Interesting.
whatever I have. Yeah. But yeah, actually, it was a really easy decision for me because I didn't have other option. I just have to do it, and I did it. Yeah.
Do you find other, because that gets to what you wrote about, like if you look at the style of the documentaries that you make, it's appearing as a character within the documentary. That is a unique style that you have, and I'm just trying to get at, like, where that comes from, and then when your teachers when you talked about it at school, did your teachers talk encourage that? Did they discourage it? What has been the reaction to other people for that particular style?
Definitely, it's not really common making 3 documentaries in a
Right.
row, and I was just using me as a character to deliver the story. So I think in my film, even though it's my personal story, I think the whole film and the whole story is really universal. In the film, me as a character, I see myself as a medium to deliver the story to make it universal. And about school, of course, everyone sees me as a crazy person. Like, why would you do that? Like, it's the third time and you have to stop at some point. And then I didn't listen. I don't want to stop. I have to do it. And yeah, for me, it was really obvious, but
I
not everyone supported my decision. Yeah, that's the only
I
thing I can
love
say.
that. I love that. Yeah, no, I love that resilience of pushing forward at your own dreams rather than listening to somebody saying, "No, don't do that." If it feels personal and it feels right, why wouldn't you do that?
Exactly. Actually, some people ask me, why don't you find a same person who has the same story? Not same person, but like similar people who have
Oh,
same story or a similar, and then make a film about them, not using yourself. But I was like, then what's the point? I'm not making this film for other people. I'm making it for myself. So for me, it was nonsense. So I just, yeah, didn't listen to anyone.
and you got the brilliant film Welcome Home Freckles out of that. It's gorgeously shot. You do so well in it. Definitely must watch Saturday, June 14th, DC Doc. So you went to Cannes, you have been out there with talking about your filmmaking. Let me ask you this, Hiju. So when you introduce yourself, how often does a Korean filmmaker come up? Do you think of yourself as a Korean filmmaker? Do you like that moniker? Is it something that you feel like might be a burden? Do you want to like maybe not talk about that? Like, what's your relationship with that label, if you even like it?
I think that's a really interesting question because I've never heard of that kind of question. But yeah, I love being Korean. I want to call myself as a Korean filmmaker because I want to be a Korean filmmaker who makes Korean cinema, especially
Okay,
in documentary scene. Korean cinema is like worldwide, and there are so many successful films, even in Hollywood or in Western film industry, whatever. But for me personally, as a documentary filmmaker, it was quite difficult to find that level of international documentary film. So I'm trying to, how to say, I'm trying to bring the Korean cinema into the documentary world. Because
right.
for me, fiction and documentary, they're the same. They're just cinema. But some people, there's hierarchy, if that makes sense. But
It does, yeah. And I
yeah,
think it's
so
one of the things where people might have assumptions about Korean film and whatever they're thinking, like action films, whatever it is. And I think it breaks the barrier for you to say, no, this is Korean film, but it's in a documentary form.
exactly. As long as there's a story, it's a cinema. And that's how I see the film. And also for Welcome of Freckles, I was only one Korean person in the team, even though it's a Korean film. I want to call it Korean film and I want to make it authentic Korean cinema. So that's why
Right.
I tried to have a really early on conversations with my composer, with my DOP, and even with my editor. So even in the pre-production, I sent them the list of films, my reference films. Like some of them are Korean, some of them are Japanese, and like etc. And how we created really, I want to call it authentic visual of Korean cinema because for me, Korean cinema or Korean culture is like a poetry. Everything is really condensed and metaphorical. So I wanted to deliver that sense of Korean cinema into Welcome of Freckles, if that makes sense.
It does completely. I love that answer. So you were at Cannes, you're coming to DC Docs, correct? Next month. What is your goal at film festivals? Are you there to help push particular films that you have, like Welcome Home Freckles, to like new distributors? Are you there to pitch people on like future projects? When you go into a film festival, what is your goal?
I'm in a weird position at the moment because I have Welcome on Freckles really going well, really doing well, going many
Right.
film festivals, right? So when I'm screening my film, I'm trying to promote Welcome on Freckles as much as possible. But for example, Cannes, I was in the one of the industry program called Focus Co-Pro. So it
Okay.
was a place for directors or producer looking for co-production collaborators. So that's why I went
Interesting.
to Cannes. When was it? Last month? Yeah. And yeah, I think it depends on the purpose. If I have a film there, of course, I want to promote Welcome on Freckles. But if I'm in the industry program, I'm more focused on looking for future collaborators. For example, like producer or production house. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And are these programs, have you found these programs help make a living as a documentary filmmaker? Because that's one of the challenges, right? Is that it's like, not only is it hard to make the documentary, it's hard to maintain a job, maintain income, maintain wealth from this. I haven't heard anybody being like, yeah, I got into documentary filmmaking and now I'm able to it's not a medium for growing wealth. So do you find that these programs help continue your career and allow you to do what you love?
I think that's a dilemma, especially for documentary filmmakers, because just in my case, I don't make films for making money because
Right.
I know there's no money. So anyway, I know there's no money. I can make a living, so that's not the first priority. Of course, I want to make a first priority. If you're
Right.
established people, then you will sign a contract and getting minimum guarantee, MG minimum guarantee and whatever. But young, like infant level filmmaker is not helping you make a living for sure. But I think it's really helpful in terms of how to say it, exposing yourself and
Right.
introducing yourself as a profession in the industry, because especially as an independent filmmaker, it's quite difficult to call yourself as a professional. If that I
Yeah.
make film, but I don't make a living. Like I don't get the whole income.
Right.
So time to time it's quite difficult to call myself as a professional director or a full-time director. But anyway, money is horrible. Trust me, it's impossible, especially in London. No, it's a nightmare. But I think festivals or industry program, the purpose is getting to know people, exposing yourself, and making a network. Unfortunately, in this industry, I think network is everything. Even
Right.
if I want to deny it, that's the reality, unfortunately. So that's why everyone in this industry are eager to introduce themselves, going to network party. Actually, it's not a party, it's just another business meeting, but we just call it party. Like we call it festival, but when it's just a business speak convention, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so well stated. So quotable there. So it also leads to my next question. So you said London was tough. Did you grow up in London? Is that what you know? Can you talk to people who aren't familiar with London? Is it a good place for a documentary filmmaker? It might be challenging, it sounds like. You do have a gateway to Europe, so at least there is that. And I feel like London loves independent film, so it must have its pros and cons.
I think it depends who's listening to this answer. So is it for American targeted or is it just in general? The
I
question.
think it just in general, like for anyone listening, like if they're not familiar with working in London, what's your experience like? If somebody asked you, hey, should I move to London as a documentary filmmaker? What would you tell them?
First, I'm Korean. I moved to the UK just for the school. So I
Okay.
spent like how long was it? Like 20, 25, 26 years living in Korea, and then I decided to move to the UK to find a better place for documentary, because in Korea it's pretty tough and
Right.
it's really tiny, so you cannot even call it industry. I mean, it is industry, but about London, I think especially after Brexit. But don't get me wrong, this is just a purely foreigner perspective. I know nothing about
Yeah,
this
no.
country, but I think these days, especially after Brexit, the difference between European market and UK market is really big, as much as
Really?
American and European, if that makes
Wow.
sense. I think that's a
Wow.
trend, especially the co-production projects are really trending in Europe, and they're really supportive, like government supportive. Even the whole country is supporting film culture or art, but in the UK, it's really tough, especially if you want to submit your film to festivals, because a lot of jobs or roles or opportunities are in TV industry. So is one of the few countries who has big audience in TV. I think that's really unique. That's the pros and cons, because there are always a job, not always, more jobs in TV industry than film industry, especially in documentary. No, don't come to London. Depends. It depends where you're from. Like for example, me, because I'm
Right.
from Korea, it was no brainer. Of course, I have to move to the UK. Actually, I was thinking about US as well. I There are many pros and cons, but UK schools,
Yeah.
for example, film school, they're much cheaper. One or two zeros less
Wow.
compared to tuition. Yeah, in terms of tuition, US schools are really more expensive. UK a little bit less, but still really expensive. But European countries, European schools, their industry is really welcoming, and they're always eager to find new voices. Yeah, I think that's why Welcome on Freckles is doing like really well in the US and also in Europe. But my film hasn't got into any UK festivals yet, which is really interesting.
Really?
Yeah, and also they have
Especially given that
unique.
you're a homegrown sort of talent for you went to film school, you have made films in London. Like it seems like it would
Exactly,
be a
it is a UK
no-brainer.
film. Yeah,
Oh, that's really interesting. I have no idea why that is. So, when you went to Cannes, did you finalize or get an idea of what your next project is? Can you talk about anything that you may be working on now?
actually, I don't want to be rude, but these days I'm trying to, how to say it, say less about my
Okay.
next project. But
No, not rude at all.
yeah, I think getting an exposure is a good thing, but at the same time, it's retiring, and I think it has become a pressure on me as a director. If I was
Right.
a like full-time producer, then I would love to talk about everywhere with anyone, exposure, talk to me whenever. But on the other hand, as a director, I need some time
Uh,
to think about my project and work on it. But yeah,
I've had some producers on and they're exactly like that. They're like, "Let me tell you about what I'm working on. It's this A B C D E F G," and it's okay. All right, maybe I just asked for one there, man.
exactly. The biggest lesson I've learned from Cannes is I've been doing this festival circuit since last November at ITFA in Amsterdam. So I've been meeting people, producers, production house, or like possible collaborators or whatever. So it's been over like, I don't know, 9 months. But I feel really tired about it because nobody really cares, if that makes sense. So only director care about their baby. So now after 9 months lesson, I've realized I should say less and just prove it with my work. But
Oh,
the only thing I can say is it's not personal documentary. I'm done with personal
okay.
documentary for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's are you're comfortable with that? Like you want to move away from your style?
It's not about moving away from personal documentary. It's just I've said enough. And I have another thing. Yeah, I have another interesting idea. So
Okay.
I have to make a film about it because it's interesting. Yeah, I'm
But
curious.
you're
Yeah.
staying documentary. Do you have any excitement about doing a narrative film or you just want to stick with documentary?
I used to do some fiction in Korea or music video, but I don't know, I find it boring. I love watching it, but
Right.
making a fiction film is not thrilling as much as making documentary film. But yeah, I'm full-time documentary person.
I love that. So, indie film podcast, love hyping other people's projects. You talked about how it's important to be supportive of other people, which I love. Is there a film or filmmaker, Hiju, that you wish more people knew about?
There must be many, but personally, my new role model is Tatiana Huetzo. She's a director, documentary director, but she also directs fiction. But she's like a big one. She's not independent level. She's like a big one, but I'm sure nobody knows about her because she makes documentary. But her latest documentary film is called The Echo.
Okay.
It's yeah, it's about a countryside in Mexico. It's about kids and the adult in the rural area in Mexico. Actually, the village is called The Echo, so that's why the film is called The Echo. And yeah, she's my next role model, and I want to make my next project as her film, The Echo. So I'm trying to copy her style or approach or learn from her works. So yeah, I'm a big fan of her.
Love that. I think that's probably the closest we'll get to hearing from you about what your next project is.
It's about all I can say is it's about mother and daughter relationship, and yeah, I wish
You-
I could learn from the contributors about the family bonding, which I didn't have. But yeah, I'm curious about it, so I want to learn.
I love it. I've loved this conversation. Huiju Park, Welcome Home Freckles is showing at DC Docs June 14th. Tickets are available. You can go online, buy them. Definitely go check it out. It's a great film. It's a personal film. It's something that you'd want to see in a theater, which I think is fantastic. And this conversation has been really eye opening for me. I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your ability to come on here and just tell the audience how you feel about London, about your films, about documentary filmmaking. It's been an exciting conversation. And thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. It was fun to chat to you.